Hi everyone, it's me, Tim, and today I want to talk about another Memento story. People have asked about stuff in those display cases behind me, and I wanted to talk about one of my favorite things. This. This is me drawn in the style of Fallout of Vault Boy by T. Ray Isaac. This is a T. Ray Isaac one-of-a-kind original. I put it in plastic so it doesn't get damaged. You can see it's signed by T. Ray right there. It says T. Ray 97. Let me tell you the story about this. So, basically, when I was making Fallout, the development, quick backstory on the development of Vault Boy. When we realized we needed all the skill dex cards, and they needed something on them, and we had tried icons related to the perk or skill in question, and we literally made lots of icons. They just didn't connect. So Leonard was thinking about Mr. Moneypenny on Monopoly cards, and he drew the first Vault Boy. And we're thinking a different one could be drawn for every card. Another artist, George Almond, went through and kind of adjusted the ink weights. And when Leonard liked that, it was given over to Tremel Ray Isaac to do the 200 or so we needed for the game. And that was a lot of work. T-Ray did all the ones you see in the original Fallout. And there were a lot. Then, towards the end when we were making the manual, the way the manual worked is, even though it was spiral bound, there were a certain number of pages we had to do. I think it wasn't a power of 2, but it was very similar to that. And that's one reason the Geck ad ended up. We ended up at a free page, and Leonard quickly threw together that ad for the Geck. But we had decided to do, in the appendices, we had decided to do, and here I actually have, because I have a manual, we decided for Appendix 6 to put in some recipes. And there's my picture, and there's my recipe, and then there's this recipe that Chris Taylor did for desert salad. Why did we do that? Well, I used to bake a lot. I was always bringing stuff by. In fact, T-Ray's favorite was my cinnamon bread, but I didn't put that in the book. I did mushroom clouds because I was making the little chocolate mushrooms already, and I thought I could theme it to be Fallout. I'd done one recipe before. It was on the Stone Keep game, which Chris Taylor was the lead on. There was a hidden file called muffin.txt, I think, that had the pumpkin muffins on it. So we wanted to do something that was more easy for people to find. It was right in the manual. It was a couple post-apocalyptic themed recipes. And you may go, well, why mushroom clouds? They're actually little meringue cookies that are glued together with dark chocolate. Since meringue doesn't have much taste, it's just sweetened egg. All the taste comes from the chocolate. So you have to use a really good chocolate if you make it. I'll put the recipe in the description. Although you should have it in your original Fallout manual. You do have an original Fallout manual, don't you? So the recipe, it's a little modified by me, but it came from a cookbook that a friend of mine in graduate school had it was a chocolate cookbook. And there was a recipe in it called a Yule log cake. I didn't care for the cake, but it was decorated with these mushroom cookies. Those I loved. So I started making them. Now, these cookies and this recipe, I will warn you, it's not to be made lightly. It takes about 6 hours from start to finish to make these cookies. Now, you're not busy for that entire 6 hours, but you are busy for about 4 of it. The way it works is you have to make the meringue, and you have to pipe out caps. And then when the meringue starts getting warm in the piping bag, you pipe out the stems, and then when it starts getting warm, you pipe out the caps. And then you fill it back up, and you go again. You do stems and caps, stems and caps. You have to keep really good. You have to go quickly, and you have to keep track of how many stems and caps you have because you need an equal number because you got to put them together later. Then you sprinkle them with cocoa. Go outside to blow that cocoa around. Do not make the mistake I made the first time, which is blow it in your kitchen because everything wound up covered in cocoa because a big cloud of cocoa goes up. Then you put them in a really low oven, like 200 degrees Fahrenheit, for a couple hours. That's when you can relax. Then when they come out, you have to scrape the top off every stem, melt some chocolate, and then glue caps and stems together. And that takes a couple more hours. You will literally just have to take a 6-hour part of your day and set it aside. Because of that, I made these a few times. I brought them to work. When you take so much time making something and they get inhaled super quickly, you're like, ugh, why do I do this? I'll just go back to making cookies and muffins. But I had a friend. She had a very, very nice, fancy, catered Christmas party every year at her house. I met the mayor of Newport Beach there once. And so I brought them the first year. And I remember I brought them and I opened them up. And I said, look what I brought. And she went, oh, mushrooms. And I said, no, they're cookies. And she took one out and she looked at it and she ate it. And hey, if I don't say so myself, they're really good. So what she did was she took them back to the catering people and said, bring these out later in the party. And they did. They put it on silver serving trays and there were caterers walking around with my cookies on them. And I still remember people would look at it like, why are you bringing me a mushroom? Because they really do. Even close inspection, they look like a mushroom. And they would look at them like, and then they'd eat one and they're like, oh, I want another one. A little kid came up to me. He's probably like 8 years old and he goes, I'm allergic to mushrooms, but they say there are no mushrooms in this and you made them. I'm like, yep, there's no mushrooms. And he looked at it and he looked back at me and he said, if my face swells up, my mom's going to get really mad. And I'm like, there are no mushrooms in it. And he's like, I'm like, well, don't eat it. I don't care. Don't eat it. And that worked. He went, oh. And then he went and got another one. So that was fun. I went to that party almost every year for about 25 years. And I always brought those cookies. One year, the caterer, after about 4 or 5 years, they were used to me. I'd get there and I'd go back and I'd have this big Tupperware container full. And like, I brought the mushroom cookies. And one year, one of the women who worked there said, hey, could we get the recipe for that? We would love to make those ourselves. Not for this party. We can make them for other parties. And I said, sure, it's really easy. I could write it down in 5 minutes. I wrote it down and I gave it to her and she looked at it and she went, 6 hours? And I'm like, yes, you will spend a lot of time on the piping and assembly of these cookies. They never made them. She said, that's not going to happen. So I thought that was funny. So because these cookies took so long to make, they're very rarely seen. I think outside of a couple times I made them for friends and for coworkers, these cookies were only ever seen at that fancy party. And so I thought, this is perfect. What a perfect thing to put in the Fallout manual because they're easy to make. They take you a long time to make. They look like little mushrooms. And they're delicious. And they did. They went in, and I know people have made them. I've seen internet YouTube videos of people making them. It's really cool. But then I think, I got this. I got the original. And I'll always have this. Thank you, T-Ray. I saw T-Ray at a conference in 2017 in Dubrovnik in Croatia, of all places. And we talked about this, and I mentioned I have this. And he talked about having to do those couple hundred little Vault Boys for Fallout. And looking back on it a couple decades later, I think he could laugh. Actually, it was 2017, so it was exactly 2 decades later. But at the time, I could tell he was like, ugh, I'm so tired of drawing Vault Boys. In fact, in Fallout 2, Brian Menzies did a lot of the Vault Boys. I talked to him about it. He ended up working at Obsidian like I did. And we used to talk about that. He was really good at drawing Vault Boys. He could draw a Vault Boy really quickly. So anyway, people have asked for Memento stories. And I had to tell this one because of everything that's in this cabinet. This might very well be my favorite thing because of It's directly connected to me and a team member on Fallout, and it is completely unique. So I thought, yeah, I talked about the foam core board. What I really need to talk about is me as a Vault Boy character. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that.